Welcome to South Suburban Parks and Recreation Supervisor Training. South Suburban's mission is to foster healthy living through stewardship of the environment, parks, trails, and open space, and by providing recreational services and programs. You as a supervisor are tasked with an important responsibility in ensuring you and your team are successful in their part of this mission. With this in mind, the goal of this training is to provide essential information to new and tenured supervisors on how to navigate the systems, procedures, and resources needed to support their teams. Please watch this training in its entirety and refer back to the pertinent sections when needed. During this supervisor training, we will go over the following items: our intranet subhub, how to navigate Web ATS through the hiring process, the very important I-9 requirements and process, our payroll system Paylocity, to include approving time cards, separating employees, and the self-service portal, supervisor responsibilities under the Family and Medical Leave Act, also referred to as FMLA, workers' compensation, the Leadership Academy, ways to recognize your staff, additional resources that are helpful for supervisors to know about. First, let's start with your number one source of information, Subhub. Subhub is our employee intranet, and its purpose is to keep you up to date by being the place to go to find resources and information you might need. Subhub has many resources from many different departments. During this training, we specifically want to show you a few items of importance on Subhub that you will definitely use as a supervisor. Subhub can be accessed while on the district's network, and an icon for Subhub can be found on the desktop of all district computers. Once you open Subhub, you'll notice that there is a Human Resources section located along the top toolbar. And if you point to the Human Resources section with your cursor, a drop-down of additional items will appear that pertain to human resources, including a link to meet your Human Resources team that includes the Human Resources Department contact information page. You'll also see a link to the district's employee handbook. Specifically, let's click on the Supervisor's Toolkit that contains a plethora of helpful items for supervisors to reference and utilize. The Supervisor's Toolkit is organized by different employment categories. For example, underneath the compensation category, you can find the most updated copies of the part-time and full-time employee pay plans. These items will come in handy later when you are hiring staff. In the Employee Performance category of the Supervisor's Toolkit, you will find blank evaluation forms to use for part-time staff whom you should conduct an annual review with once a year on their work anniversary date. Also under the Employee Performance category is a blank corrective action form that is used for disciplining employees. If you are planning on delivering a corrective action form to one of your staff members, you can download and fill out the corrective action form with the pertinent details of the situation. Then, be sure to email your corrective action draft to the Human Resources team for review before delivering it to the staff member. Another item of note in the Supervisor's Toolkit is the paper employee action form located under the Employment Changes and Separations. This paper employee action form can be used for items including processing part-time annual merit increases, adding additional supervisors to a time card, swapping a primary position, or removing a secondary position. It cannot be overstated how important of a resource Subhub is for employees of the district. Be sure to take some time to specifically explore the Supervisor's Toolkit and all of Subhub to become familiar with resources that you may need. Now let's talk about Web ATS and the hiring processes and procedures that may be required of you as a supervisor, so you can be successful from the start of posting a job through your new employee's first day of work. First, let's look at a high-level overview of all the steps in the recruitment process.
The steps in the recruitment process look like this. First, you have an open position that you'd like to hire for. You can either request that your position be posted by emailing ssprdhr@ssprd.org with the details, or you can submit a job posting request via web ATS. Second, as candidates apply, you will need to disposition them in web ATS and schedule and conduct interviews with those you'd potentially like to move forward with. Reach out to HR for assistance with interview questions. Third, make a verbal job offer contingent on a background check to the candidate you'd like to move forward with. Fourth, send a background check request to the candidate via web ATS by dispositioning the candidate into the appropriate background check bucket. Once you receive an email from HR that the background check is cleared, you will submit an employee action form in web ATS to be approved by your next level supervisor and HR. This form provides payroll and HR with the name of the person, the position, department, and pay rate you have hired them on for. Once the web ATS PA is submitted and fully approved, HR will email the new hire the online onboarding Paylocity paperwork for the new or rehire to complete. On or before your new or rehire's first working day, you must complete an I-9 with them and scan it to ssprdhr@ssprd.org so the new employee can be entered into the Paylocity payroll system. You'll add 1.5 hours onto your new or rehire's time card in Paylocity to account for their time completing their online onboarding paperwork. Now that we've seen the high-level overview of the steps in the hiring process, let's take a look at each of these steps in more detail, starting with posting an open position.
There are two ways to request that a position be posted. You can either send an email to ssprdhr@ssprd.org, or you can log into web ATS to submit your request for a part-time position to be posted that way. If you don't know your web ATS login credentials, please reach out to HR for assistance. If you decide to submit a job posting request via web ATS, once you're logged in, click on Create Job on the left-hand side column. You'll select from the available part-time job templates that have already been created. After you select the applicable template, the posting information will autofill into the appropriate fields. You can then make changes to the template to meet your specific hiring needs. For example, let's say I have a front desk agent position available and I'm needing to fill a 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. shift on Tuesdays at the Goodson Recreation Center. You can simply type that information into the field. Please note that you may not post the position over the midpoint of the salary range unless you obtain prior approval from the director of your department. You'll scroll through and you'll fill out the other applicable information. And then at the bottom, you'll select from the list of approvers to send your job posting request to. Be sure to check with your supervisor to find out if they want you to add them to approve your job posting request. But always be sure to select Approval HR PA as the final approver in your list so that it is routed to HR to look over and finalize and post the position on all the available job posting sites. You'll scroll down, and once you enter all the necessary information into the required fields, you'll click on Continue. You'll double check your work, and if all is correct, you'll click on Submit for approval. Once HR approves it, you'll notice it in your job listing. One other item to note regarding job postings: open positions are required to be posted for a minimum of 7 days. After your job posting request is fully approved and posted by HR, you will utilize WebATS once again to view your applicants and disposition them into different buckets, depending on how you'd like to move forward with each of the candidates. There are a few ways to view your candidates. One of the easiest ways is to click on Jobs at the top of the window. Then you'll click on the name of the job posting you would like to view your candidates for. Please note that if you do not see the job posting you are looking for, it may be a closed posting. If that's the case, be sure to filter your job posting to closed postings. But in this case, I want to look at my open front desk agent posting, so I'll click on the title. Once you find and click on the job posting, you will now see a list of candidates who applied for your position, and you can click through and look at each of their applications and resumes. Depending on how you'd like to move forward with each of them, you can click on this bar that says New Applicant and move them into the bucket of your choosing that indicates how you intend to move forward with each individual applicant. A tip for supervisors who share job postings and the candidates who apply to shared job postings: you can add a quick note to any candidate that is viewable by the other supervisors who have access to the same job posting. For example, let's say that you scheduled an interview with a particular candidate and they were a no-show to the interview. You could add a quick note by typing in something like "interview no-show on 11/22. You can then click on Add the Quick Note, and this quick note will be visible to the other supervisors who share this same job posting with you. After you interview candidates and select whom to move forward with, you'll make that candidate a verbal job offer that's contingent on a background check. Let the candidate know that their job offer is contingent on a background check, and then you'll move that candidate into the applicable background check bucket. If the candidate tells you that they did not receive the emailed background check request, be sure to tell them to check their spam, junk, trash, deleted, promotional, and social folders, as sometimes the email can end up in one of those locations instead of their usual email inbox. And then you'll click OK. Another trick is you can also move the candidate into a different bucket, such as considering applicant, and then you can move them back into the background check bucket, which will generate another email to the candidate to complete their background check. After the candidate completes their background check, you'll receive an email from HR that the candidate's background check is cleared. After you receive that all clear email, you'll log into your WebATS and you'll locate the job that you're hiring the candidate to, and you'll locate your candidate. Now I'll move my candidate into the Offer Made PA Approval bucket. When you move your candidate into this bucket, a form appears that requires you to enter in the information pertaining to the position you are hiring the candidate for. You'll fill in all the required fields in the form. Let's look at my example together. The subject is already filled in for me and I don't need to change it for my purposes. The message to approver is also already filled in and I don't need to make any changes to this either. The job title that I'm hiring them to is already filled in for me. In the salary field, I'll enter the salary and then the type. In this case, it's hourly. I'll enter the new hire start date for the district. The start date must be entered in year, month, day format. This is a tentative start date as HR will use the date of hire that you list on the I-9, which we'll cover later in this training. In the action type, you'll choose whichever action type applies, either new hire, rehire, promotion, additional position or rate, or transfer. Keep these action types in mind since Web ATS will be the system you will use to process these types of situations. In background check is clear, I'll select yes, because you can only submit a PA after you receive the email from HR that the new hire or rehire's background check has been all cleared. The next question asks, if this position drives, is the MVR clear? I'll mark no, because in my example, I did not submit for an MVR check for this position because it does not require the employee to drive. Will this employee approve time cards? Again, for this one, I'll mark no, because in my example, this new hire will not be a supervisor. Does this person need an auto lunch punch for golf or parks? I'm going to put no, since in my example, this position is not for a golf or parks position. In employment type, I'll select the applicable option for my position. These employment types are defined in the District Employee Handbook according to the number of hours an employee works. In my example, my new hire is going to be a part-time, year-round employee. For the primary department, I'll select the applicable department number. On SubHub, you can reference a list of all department numbers / titles in the Supervisor's Toolkit if needed. For the primary position field, I'll select the applicable position number. Again, on SubHub, you can reference a list of all position numbers / titles in the Employee Pay Plan in the Supervisor's Toolkit if needed. For the hiring direct supervisor, you'll put the person who's the direct hiring supervisor of this candidate. If there are additional supervisors who need access to the new hire or rehire's time card, you will type that information into the next field, which asks, enter additional supervisors for time card access. If there's no one needing access to their time card in addition to the hiring supervisor, you'll simply type in NA. For the name of the person completing this form, you'll type in your name. I'm going to pretend that I am Sean Jones. If this is for a new or rehire that has applied and will be hired for multiple district positions, or if this form is for a current employee who has applied for an additional position and it needs to be added to their Paylocity record, you would enter those items in the next section where it asks for additional position or pay codes. In this case, I'll pretend that this new hire is only being hired for only this front desk agent position and skip ahead to the bottom of the form. Once you enter all the applicable information for your new or rehire into the required fields, you'll select from the list of approvers to send your completed PA to. Be sure to check with your supervisor to find out if they want you to add them to approve your job posting requests. But always be sure to select Approval HR PA as the final approver so that it is routed to HR to look over and finalize. In my example, I'll pretend that I need to send my PA form to first go to Eileen Matheson, and then I'll put for my second and final approver, Approval HR PA. Again, be sure to check with your supervisor to find out if they want you to add them to approve your job posting requests. And as always, choose Approval HR PA as the final approver. Please note that if this PA you are completing is for a full-time position, you will also need to reach out to HR to request that they create an official offer letter for you to send to the candidate along with pertinent benefit information. After you've completed this in its entirety, you'll click down here at the bottom the blue button that says Send Approval. Once this screen pops up like this and it says Offer Approval, you can see at the bottom that this is now pending my next approver's approval, and then after that is approved by Eileen, it will go to HR for approval. Once your Web ATS PA is fully approved by each of the approvers you selected in the last section, you will receive an email notification that your PA was fully approved. At this point, the HR team will email the new or rehire the online onboarding paperwork for the new hire or rehire to complete. If you're looking for additional resources to navigate Web ATS, you can try using the Web ATS guide that's found by navigating to SubHub, Human Resources, Supervisor's Toolkit, and all the way at the bottom, under Onboarding, there's the Web ATS guide. In addition, in Web ATS, you can also click on this question mark and it will bring up the help and training guides from Web ATS.
There are 2 items that need to be completed before a new hire or rehire is entered into the Paylocity payroll system in order for you to be able to see them in your list of employees and for the new or rehire to be able to clock in. The first item is the new or rehire needs to complete their online onboarding paperwork through Paylocity. And the second item is the new or rehire and you, their supervisor, must complete an I-9 on or before their first day of employment. Let's talk about the very important I-9 requirements and process that you as a supervisor will complete with your new or rehired employee on or before their first day of employment. So what is an I-9 and why is it so important? The I-9 is a required government form that verifies employment eligibility. The employee, whether a new or rehire, must present identification as evidence of their identity and work authorization from a list of acceptable documents. Both the employee and supervisor must complete an I-9 on or before the employee's first day of employment. If the employee does not present acceptable identification documents by the end of 3 business days after their first day of work, supervisors must send the employee home to retrieve these documents. If the employee cannot produce the documents, the district will have to separate the employee. Now let's go over how to complete an I-9 form.
The most updated copy of the I-9 form can be downloaded from SubHub. To download the form, navigate to SubHub, Human Resources, Supervisor's Toolkit. You'll scroll down to the onboarding section and click on the I-9 form link. Once you're here, you'll have to download this I-9 onto your computer by clicking the arrow pointed down on the top right corner. You'll choose a location to save this form on your computer, and then you'll open the form from the location you saved it in with Adobe. This will allow you to type into the form. If you follow these instructions and are unable to open the form and type in it, please email ssprdhr@ssprd.org for assistance. Now that you've downloaded a copy of the I-9 form, let's go over how to use it. The I-9 form must be completed with all new and rehired employees on or before their first day of employment. The new or rehired employee must present identification as evidence of their identity and eligibility to work in the U.S. from the list of acceptable documents on the I-9 form. Both the employee and supervisor share in the completion of the I-9 form. I'm going to play the part of both the employee and employer. Let's start with Section 1, which again must be filled out by the employee on or before their first day on the job. As the supervisor, you'll open the I-9 form on your computer and have your new or rehired employee sit down at the computer and fill out Section 1 themselves. I'll pretend I'm the employee and fill out Section 1 so you can understand what is needed from your employee. Watch as I navigate and enter the requested information into the fields. For fields that do not apply to me, I'll enter NA so that there is an entry in every field. I'll select the state from the drop-down. Here I can enter my work email address if I already know it and have one, or in this case, I'll just enter my personal email address. As the employee will select next my citizenship status. In my case, I'm a citizen of the United States. I can't sign or date this form until it's printed out because you want an actual signature. So now I'll pretend I'm you, the supervisor, and trade places with the employee at the computer to show you how to complete this Section 2. Please note that supervisors must complete Section 2 before the employee's third day of work. At this point, the new or rehire will present supporting documents from the list of acceptable documents found on the I-9 form. You can't specify which documents the new or rehire can present to you. However, if the new or rehire needs some guidance on which documents to select, it's always a good idea to explain to them that they can either select one item from List A or present two items, one from List B and one from List C. Keep in mind that the new or rehire must present original documents to you. You cannot accept photocopies of their supporting documentation. The documentation must also not be expired. You will need to physically examine the documents that the new or rehire provided to you. With the new or rehire's documents that you're looking at, let's fill out Section 2. I'll enter the information from the employee's documentation that they provided me with. Let's pretend that this employee presented a driver's license and a social security card. So I'm going to enter the document title on List B, which is driver's license. Now I'll enter the issuing authority, which we'll pretend is State of Colorado. The document number is the driver's license number. And the expiration date. For List C, like I said, I'll pretend that this person gave me their social security card. So I'll put document title 1 is social security card. The issuing authority for a social security card is the emblem behind the number of the person's social security number. So this one, I'll say that it came from the Social Security Administration. The document number for a social security card is the social security number. And for a social security card, there is no expiration date, so I'll type in NA. I also will put NA in these fields since they didn't give me anything. From List A. Now I'll type in my employee's first day of employment. I'll type in my last name, my first name, and my job title. And again, I can't sign and date this until I print this out. So now that I've finished section 2 as the supervisor, I'll print the I-9 in its entirety. My new or rehire will sign and date their section 1, and I'll sign and date section 2 as the supervisor. Please make sure that your employee uses the current date and not their birth date, which is a common mistake. Finally, I'll make front and back copies of the new or rehire's documentation that they provided to me. I'll then scan the entire I-9 form and their supporting document copies in an email to ssprdhr@ssprd.org. The Human Resources team will let me know if there are any corrections that need to be made. Otherwise, the new or rehire will be activated in Paylocity once they have completed their onboarding.
Let's recap the I-9 process. As a supervisor, make sure to complete an I-9 with your new or rehire on or before their first day of employment. Use the I-9 form found in the Supervisor's Toolkit in the Human Resources section of SubHub, and you can save it to your desktop for future use. Have your new or rehire complete Section 1 of the I-9 themselves. You, the supervisor, will then complete Section 2. Then, print the I-9. Be sure to check all the entries in Section 1 and Section 2 for mistakes. Your new or rehire signs and dates Section 1 that they completed, and you, the supervisor, will sign and date Section 2 that you completed. A commonly seen mistake is that an employee incorrectly signs and dates the form using their date of birth. If you find that this is the case, have the employee draw a line through the mistake, have them write the correct date, and then have them initial their correction. You, the supervisor, will make front and back copies of the new hire or rehire's documentation that they provided to you for Section 2. Then you, the supervisor, will scan and email the entire completed signed I-9 and the front and back copies of the new or rehire's documentation to ssprdhr@ssprd.org. New or rehires will be activated in the payroll system once their I-9 is received by HR and the new or rehire has completed their Paylocity onboarding paperwork. If you need any assistance or have questions concerning the I-9, do not hesitate to contact HR. Now that your employee has been hired, they've completed their online Paylocity onboarding paperwork, and HR has received the completed I-9, they will be entered into the Paylocity payroll system. Let's discuss how you as a supervisor will utilize Paylocity to approve the time cards of your direct reports, submit a separation for employees who no longer work for the district, and peruse Paylocity's self-service portal.
Hi everyone, I'm going to walk through how to approve time cards. So the process I recommend is when you get to your supervisory dashboard is to first look at if you have any missed punches for employees. So if you click on that, it will show your missed punches down here. So you'll see the employee's name, what type of punch they're missing, and the date and time it's paired with. So we'll make those corrections. So if I click on that, it will bring us to the employee's time card. So you'll see I have those 2 missed punches. I'll click into the cell and just put 5P and save. And you'll see that up here it says employee time card successfully saved and gives us a green line. And then we'll punch this one out too. We'll say this time they left at 3:30 p.m. and save. Now the next step is to look at the time card. So this is my test B employee. They worked 3 shifts. They did come in at 9, but the department looks off to me. So if I need to correct the department, I would just click into the field. It's going to give me the department and position. So I'm going to say they actually worked in general ops as a customer service rep. So you can see for the drop down, it only is going to give you what's available to that employee. I'm going to save that, and now you'll see their department is changed as well as their position. So I'm going to save that. And now I also notice that maybe they forgot to punch in and punch out. So Monday the 22nd, they actually were supposed to work 9 to 2. So by clicking in the cell, I'll put 9 a.m. It will default automatically to their primary department and position if I do nothing. So I'm going to put them out at 2 p.m. and again, save that. So now you'll see that's their primary department and position. So if everything looks good for my test B employee, I can come over here and just click on the days, or at the very top, click on this and it will prove everything. And then click save. You can find your next employee by going to test C, or your next employee, that's my next employee, or over here by going to the right and clicking. So we're going to look at our test C employee. And this employee also works in the fitness and or athletics department. So they have some quantities. So we'll take a look at that. So on Monday, again, they've got their punches. Everything looks good. If I am looking at a quantity, I'll see that they taught as a fitness instructor for 1 hour. And if I think everything looks good, I can just mass approve everything up here. They don't have any missed punches. Or if I think something's missing, I can add a punch for them. So you can either go directly to the day, so you'll notice Wednesday the 24th, I can click right into the timesheet here, or I can come up here, I'm going to discard that. I can come up here and say add punch. So I'm going to say, I could say clock in, I can change the calendar date to the 24th. It's going to default to 8 a.m. So we can leave it at that. We can change the cost center to, again, whatever is available to that employee. So we'll say that they worked at the Buck Fitness and it was a meeting. So we'll just update that. And then it asks if you want to add a matching punch, and we do, because we'll want to clock them out. So you'll see when you do that, it automatically brings down that date from up top. The default hours are 8 to 5, but we can override that and we'll just say it was actually just a 1 hour meeting, so 9 a.m. I can approve this right here. And then I could just put a note, employee forgot to punch. And then add. And you'll notice on the left-hand side that only Wednesday the 24th has the little check mark, and there's my notes section. If I notice that my employee has did a quantity and they forgot to put it in, I can come here. So Thursday the 25th, I could add their hours. So I'm going to do the quantity first. So I can say that they were a fitness instructor, and that was 2.5. And then I'm going to save. And then for the 25th, I want to add those hours work. So I can add that punch and do the 25th. We'll say 8 a.m. I'm going to change it to the fitness. I'm going to say they worked at Sheridan as a fitness instructor, and I want a matching punch out, and we'll say that was we'll say that they went from right after the meeting, so 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and I'm just going to approve that, and then I can add it. So now you'll see for those quantity people, they have their quantity and their hours worked. And like I said, you can come and approve individually or mass approve. Another option is by coming to time card approvals. I'm going to leave this page. And here you'll see it's going to show me my employees, their regular hours, any non-worked hours. So for the quantities people, that's going to show under non-worked, and then total. If they have any missed punches, and then if it's been approved. So for here, I can click on Test C and do individuals, or at the very top, I can just mass approve. And again, just as a reminder, it's only going to show on one page. I think it's 10, so you'd have to click through the pages to be approving. Today I'm going to show you how to separate an employee in Paylocity using the employee action forms. When you're under HR and payroll, you can either search for your employee that you're going to separate, or if you have a short list, like our test supervisor here, you can just find that employee. So today we're going to separate test C employee. So if you come all the way over to the right-hand side under actions, you'll click on the three little dots and pick employee action form. It will tell you to select the HR action. So again, we're going to separate the employee. So we're going to status change termination. It will update the workflow. We'll come down to the employee status. So this employee is being terminated. We will select the date. You can either enter it or pick from the calendar. So I'm going to say March 31st. You'll pick from a reason list it. So we have end of season, different resignation reasons, different separation reasons. So we'll just say that it's the end of the season for this employee. Here you'll see that the begin check date automatically populated when I entered the termination date. So you don't need to change this. Just leave it to what it populates because it's being based off the date that you're entering up here. The next piece is the user access end date. That also is populating based on the termination date being entered. So this is saying the last time the employee can log into the system, Paylocity, to retrieve pay stubs and access their W-2. If the employee is eligible for rehire, you would check the box. If not, leave the box unchecked. You can make a note here. Please remember that this will be accessed by other HR personnel, so make sure the note is appropriate. And then if you have a resignation letter or an email from the employee, sometimes I know our part-time staff text you, so if you can print that, you can upload that document here. You just select the file and upload the document, let's say from your desktop. Once completed, you'll submit for approval, and it will show you all the information, and you'll submit it again after you reviewed. And you'll see down here now that the supervisor submitted test A, submitted for the termination of our test C employee, and now it's going to the HR staff. The HR staff will then approve the separation, and the employee will be removed from the supervisor's HR payroll. If the employee is still, if the supervisor entered it in advance of the employee leaving, the employee will still have access to time and labor as well as the supervisor to enter in hours worked and approve those hours. If you have any questions, please contact the Human Resources Department.
Paylocity's self-service portal can be used by employees for many functions, such as viewing and printing your paychecks, changing your direct deposit account, making a change to your tax withholdings, updating your mailing address, or submitting a request to your supervisor for time off. The self-service portal is also a great place to view the latest district news, events, and updates. In addition, you can utilize the Community and Impressions section to recognize your staff or other employees for a job well done. Take some time to look around the self-service portal of your Paylocity. This will help you to direct your staff with any questions or requests that they may be able to utilize Paylocity for. If you need additional help navigating Paylocity, you can either log into Paylocity and navigate to the Help menu that's found in the top toolbar of Paylocity and search for any item you may need help with. Or you can also navigate to SubHub, Human Resources, Paylocity Resources, where you can find a plethora of guides and videos for commonly used Paylocity features of supervisors and staff. The safety of the district's employees is a top priority. So what do you do if an employee is injured on the job or experiences an illness while at work? Or what if there is damage incurred to district property? Or what if you experience an incident with a patron? Let's walk through the logistics of where to locate the administrative documentation needed for these situations, starting with workers' compensation. If you or one of your employees experiences an injury or illness while on the job, no matter how minor, you and the employee will need to navigate to the main page of SubHub and locate the Workers' Comp Employee First Report of Injury form, which is located right here. That is completed by the injured or sick employee, and then the Workers' Comp Supervisor's Investigation Report form is completed by you, their supervisor. When you open the Workers' Comp Employee First Report of Injury form, it will explain the steps of how the employee and you, their supervisor, must proceed. First, the employee must notify their supervisor immediately when an accident or injury occurs, regardless of how minor. The employee may either, 1, call the district's claim administrator, Sedgwick, to speak with a registered nurse to determine the best course of medical care, or 2, seek immediate medical attention at one of the district's designated providers that is listed below. Third, the employee must complete this employee's written notice of injury to supervisor, which is found on the second page. Next, the supervisor must complete the supervisor's first report of injury, which is back on the previous page. The supervisor must forward this employee's written notice of injury to supervisor and the supervisor's first report of injury to Jennifer King, Risk and Compliance Manager, within 1 business day. If the injured employee seeks medical treatment, they must go to one of South Suburban's designated providers listed below. If possible, the employee or supervisor should call the provider prior to going to the facility. Any of the following providers can be used, depending on which is most convenient to their location. So what if there is damage incurred to district property? Or what if you experience an incident with a patron? Let's locate and take a look at the administrative documentation needed for these situations. If you or an employee are in a vehicle accident while working that does not result in injury, or experience district property damage or theft, you'll navigate to the main page of SubHub and locate the Incident Accident Report form, which is located right here. You'll also notice the Witness Statement form to be used if there are any witnesses to the situation, and the Supervisor Incident Accident Investigation form. You'll complete the applicable forms concerning the situation and send them to the Risk and Compliance Manager within 1 business day, or give them a call. As a supervisor, it is important for you to know when and how to recognize and respond to an employee's request for leave that may be eligible under the Family and Medical Leave Act, FMLA, and to know what to do with confidential medical information. Although you are not expected to know all of the details of FMLA, you should know the basics. If you unintentionally or intentionally
deny employees' rights under FMLA, you and the district can be held liable. This guide provides information that will answer many of the questions you may have about FMLA. The Human Resources Department is available to assist you with specific FMLA issues. What is FMLA? FMLA is leave entitlement for reasonable job-protected leave for specified family and/or medical reasons. Under the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, also known as FMLA, eligible employees have a right for up to 12 weeks of job-protected leave per 12-month period for the following reasons: for incapacity due to pregnancy, prenatal care, or childbirth, to care for the employee's child after birth or placement for adoption or foster care, to care for the employee's spouse, son or daughter, or parent with a serious health condition, for a serious health condition that makes the employee unable to perform the employee's job, any qualifying exigency arising out of the fact that a spouse, son, daughter, or parent is a military member on covered active duty or call to covered active duty status, or 26 work weeks of leave during a single 12-month period to care for a covered service member with a serious injury or illness if the eligible employee is the service member's spouse, son, daughter, parent, or next of kin. This is also known as military caregiver leave. Be aware to recognize possible FMLA qualified situations from your staff. Employees may not always say, "I need leave and it is covered under FMLA," or "I'd like to request FMLA," or otherwise come forward with a formal request or notification. Instead, watch for employees missing time from work, whether using sick leave or some other paid leave, or needing a change in schedule. Here are potential examples of situations that could indicate an employee's eligibility for FMLA and cause you to contact Human Resources immediately for guidance. An employee has been out for 3 consecutive days. An employee has been calling in sick a few days each week for several weeks. An employee mentions that their parent is not doing well and they have to take time off of work to go visit to help take care of them. An employee indicates that they may need to adjust their schedule for chemotherapy treatments. An employee tells you that their child has been diagnosed with a heart condition and they will need to take a few days off work each week to attend appointments and meet with specialists for at least the next few months. An employee tells you they may need a month off work for back surgery. An employee has been off work for a work-related injury. An employee tells you they would like to take time off for the first month after their baby is born. An employee tells you they may need to be on part or full bed rest prior to the birth of their baby. If a potential FMLA situation occurs, tell your employee this leave may be covered under the Family and Medical Leave Act, which provides job-protected leave. Please contact Human Resources to discuss this. I'll also notify the HR team that they should hear from you. Supervisors must notify Human Resources whenever they think an employee's situation might apply under FMLA. The HR department will follow up with the employee to provide FMLA information and guidance. Human Resources works directly with the employee to determine if the reason the employee is requesting leave is covered under FMLA and to confirm if the employee meets FMLA eligibility requirements, and notifies the employee of their rights under the law, and also discusses medical certification if needed. Human Resources will provide the employee supervisor with information such as dates of expected absences, restrictions on hours, and ability to perform their job, and their return to work date. This is important. All medical information is confidential. Employees should submit any medical information directly to HR, not to their supervisor. Any medical information, whether it be written or verbal, that a supervisor might receive should go to HR and should not be shared with others. Supervisors cannot ask if an employee has a medical condition or a disability. Supervisors also cannot disclose to others that an employee is using FMLA, has a medical condition or disability, or receiving an accommodation, even if the employee is already sharing this information with you or others.
Be sure to read through the additional FMLA resources that can be found on SubHub, Human Resources, Supervisor's Toolkit. You can read through the Family and Medical Leave Act, Supervisor FAQ, as well as the Family and Medical Leave Act, a guide for supervisors. And as always, contact the Human Resources Department for any questions you have regarding FMLA.
South Suburban encourages employees to broaden their knowledge and skills, and to support this learning, HR offers the Leadership Academy. The Leadership Academy is a program that provides learning opportunities for employees to be successful in their role with the district and build their future career. The Leadership Academy presents employees with a multitude of learning opportunities throughout the year and on an on-demand basis to engage in learning, to grow, and develop critical personal and career skills.
To access the Leadership Academy training resources and to view the recommended requirements for you and your staff, you can navigate to SubHub, Human Resources, Leadership Academy. Here, you'll find an outline of the Leadership Academy's learning tracks. In addition, you can find a calendar of featured leadership trainings that are offered for the year and how to attend. The Human Resources Department will send emailed invitations to staff that feature the scheduled trainings. Any staff member can utilize the learning platforms that are available to the district, such as ThinkHR, Target Solutions, and Minds and Associates. These platforms offer many trainings on different topics that you can even utilize as a supervisor for training your staff if there is something that pertains to your training needs. Details to access these platforms can be found on the bottom of the Leadership Academy page on SubHub under the Resources section. Please reach out to Human Resources if you need assistance or have questions on how to utilize the Leadership Academy to develop yourself and your staff.
Recognition has the power to impact many aspects of an organization, including engagement, turnover, productivity, morale, and purpose. When employees know they're appreciated, it motivates employees to continue great work. In fact, according to a survey conducted by Gallup, 69% of employees say they would work harder if they felt their efforts were better recognized. Employee recognition also encourages staff members to see positive attributes in one another. So besides saying thank you for a job well done, what are some other ways you can recognize your staff or others for a job well done?
The district's Employee Recognition Committee has many options to recognize one of your staff members, your entire team, or other employees in the district. Please take the time to visit SubHub, Employee Recognition Programs. Here you can find out about Superstar Awards, Round of Applause, Spotlight Awards, raffles and contests, the Full-Time Employee Anniversary Service Awards, Anniversary Luncheons, the 30-Year Service Program, Life Saving Award, Holiday Luncheon, and Sympathy.
Remember that you have all of these listed resources at your fingertips to help you as a supervisor to manage your team successfully. In addition, the Human Resources team is available to assist you along the way as well. Please reach out with any questions you may have, big or small, and we're happy to help.